Seriously, thank you for giving us some of your time.
Yes, of course. Happy to be here for sure.
All right. Now, I think we'll start off on a kind of unusual thing. It has some pretty massive stacks.
Yeah.
And look, we'll go on to just how hard it is on your body a little bit later, but we'll just concentrate on this specifically. In 2012, going for the World Cup, you were kicking bottom, actually, when you crashed, breaking, I think it was a femur, a collarbone, severe bruising, and a hematoma. A mere 7 months later,
yes,
you came back.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, 7 months, mate. And then you came back and did your first race. So your first race returning was the National Championships, and you won. So,
yeah.
wow, just wow. Mate, can you first can you tell me about the crash? Like, that must have been terrible.
Yeah.
And we'll just kind of we'll work through that if that's okay.
Yeah. So, like you said, I was midway through the 2012 World Cup season. I think I was sitting in third overall, and it was qualifying day. I was doing, well, it ended up being my last, but I was doing one of my last practice runs before qualifying, and I actually have no recollection at all of the crash or the day or the week following.
Really?
So I crashed so hard that I bonked my head pretty hard. And yeah, my brother said that he told me, you are not going to remember any of this tomorrow. But little did he realize that I didn't remember any of it for the whole week. And yeah, I was in ICU. I think I was in ICU for a week because I had my heart rate wouldn't go down, and I lost a lot of hemoglobin. Like, when you break your femur, you lose a lot of blood.
Yeah.
So I lost a lot of my iron, and if I tried to sit up for the first 2 weeks after, I blacked out or I passed out. And yeah, so it was super brutal. But I guess, ironically, the good thing about the knocking myself out is I don't remember breaking my femur.
So in some ways it was a bit of a blessing.
Yeah, I mean, apparently it's pretty damn painful, and I don't have that feeling that my femur hurt when I broke it. It definitely hurt after surgery and all that, but in the moment I wasn't like, oh my gosh, my femur hurts. Yeah. So sometimes knocking yourself out is a good protection over your body.
Yeah,
I guess.
Look, the amount of, because as you know, it's the strongest bone in the human body. Now, that requires considerable force. So the amount of force involved in your crash must have been kind of spectacular. Okay, so you've told us that you don't remember the week afterwards, but I bet you remember the recovery, like 7 months of getting.
Yeah.
Can you talk us through that? And if you're willing to, like, you can talk about the pain levels and everything too.
Yeah, so it was so the first day when I got to hospital, I was in shock and everything, so they couldn't operate, but they operated first thing the next day. They put a rod the full length of my femur bone, which is surprisingly long. So they open up your hip muscles. They drill your femur bone to 12 millimeters, and then they slide hammer it in to 14 millimeters. And they slide hammer that bad boy in. So I had that surgery, and then so after you've had that surgery, as you can see, you can't injure it anymore. So they're like, yeah, so you can get up and walk now. But mentally and physically, they're like, you've just broken your femur bone. So putting weight through your leg is extremely painful.
Yeah.
It feels like the weight of the world going through that bone, and it is very, very, very painful. So recovery is definitely long. I couldn't walk without crutches for the first month. And then I kind of walked on and off with crutches, and then just a long, painful process until I got back on the bike, which I think was about 3 months later. And then yeah, it's just the confidence getting back on the bike just was not there anymore. I was so scared when I rode the bike for the first time, because you break your femur and you're like, I'm gonna break my femur again.
Wow. Well, how did you overcome that? Because like I get that. I mean, that's amazing. So you've gone through this, you can't walk for a month, more months just getting to it. And then you get back on your first race. You must have been, to say the butterflies must have been fluttering around your stomach would be somewhat of an understatement. You're physically not at your best. You're mentally not at your best, and you win the national championships.
Yeah. Mentally, I think mentally was the hardest. I don't think I got over that broken femur for about 7 years. It's been 10 now, and I could say that 7 years later I felt like I forgot about it. But mentally, that first race was terrible. I was, it wasn't butterflies, it was an emotional breakdown. I was like a full blown meltdown, like trying to take your body to overcome this barrier, which was your body is like in full protection mode, like you've done the worst thing that you can do to your body, which is break the strongest bone, and then you're trying to put yourself back out there and back into that situation that you were in when you'd done it. And mentally that was very, very hard, and I struggled with that for quite some time, like I said, up to about 7 years.
Wow. The second thing is, okay, so the spirit is willing, but the flesh is, and so is your mind. So we've got a dichotomy of like, so there's the conscious part of you, your identity, I suppose you could say, is going, no, I'm a champion cyclist. No, I want to get back on that bike. No, I'm going to do it. Yet there's part of your brain, the animal brain, going, are you crazy? Like, what? No, I'm not letting you do that. Okay, I'm not letting you do that. And what did you do to overcome all of these different personalities, I suppose?
I guess I had a lot of support. So my parents especially, they were never like, man, you've really injured yourself. Can you stop? It's not safe, blah, blah, blah. Like my parents, in the whole like family aspect, my parents were the two people that were telling me it's okay to continue. And I think that helps a lot, because if they had have turned around and said that's too dangerous, don't go doing that again. But instead, like Dad would use examples of MotoGP riders and say that they would get injured. And one of them, Jorge Lorenzo, said, if you can't overcome the fear, then you need to stop racing. Like if you're going to let that fear, you have to choose between overcoming the fear and continuing to race, or stop racing at all, because you can't race with fear. It's dangerous, and it's not worth the risk and everything. So it comes to the point where you actually have to make the choice to say, okay, I'd rather race than rather race without fear than quit altogether. So I guess it's a love and a passion for the sport that you're doing that helps you to overcome the injury that you sustained.
Wow, that is amazing. And what I'm interested in is you can't stop yourself from feeling fear. Like that is just something that your body does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like so I mean, I couldn't make, like I tried to actively make a conscious decision not to feel fear, but you always felt it. Like I had little techniques that I used, but like what did you do?
Yeah, so I totally agree with you, and I don't believe that fear is, if we were completely fearless, we would do stupid things, so you have to question everything, but with a logical, factual, I would go into things factually. I mean, I learned a lot. When I got injured, I read loads of books. I went to like mental coaches and counselors, and I just wanted to learn as much as I could about how the mind works, because it's not just an imaginary thing. You don't just feel fear and you can choose to or not. There is like a reason why you feel fear. There's a way that you can cope with it, and our brain is so insane that you have to build like these pathways. You have to train your brain as much or more than you have to train your physical body. So you need to train yourself what fear is, and that we shouldn't be afraid of fear, let's say, and then build up to the point where you're like, okay, like I'm scared now. Am I scared because like this is dangerous, like this is factually dangerous, or am I scared because I have been hurt in the past by this, but factually there's no reason to be scared of it? So you really have to like mathematically weigh up why you're scared and then choose logically what to do next, and not still have facts behind you to be like, I've done this size jump before and I haven't crashed on it and I can do it. So logically, I am 100% capable of doing it. So where's the risk in that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Kind of talk yourself out of it, and that's the sign. That's the sign of true courage too. Actually, last week I interviewed Carla Duncan, who's a policewoman who won a bravery award, deservedly so too. And one of the things that she struggled with mentally, and I'm sure she won't mind me saying this because I know she's going to end up watching this, is she goes, well, I was so scared when it happened. And then they gave me this, and she did, like she threw herself, like what happened was she was attacked by this really fierce dog. And she threw, literally, put herself in the way to stop this dog from getting her colleagues. And Matt, you got to see it. Oh my God, we didn't show it.
Crazy.
It really, it looked like a shark attack. It was like, oh my God.
That's crazy.
And she goes, but Matt, I was scared the whole time. Like, that's not brave. Why give me a bravery award? Like, give me a terror award.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of paraphrasing. But that, she goes, give me an award for being scared. I said, no, you.
Yeah.
I didn't articulate this to her at the time. I said, you're not getting it. Courage. Courage isn't not being scared. Courage is being absolutely terrified. And
yes. Yes, and as when people, like, if people get those two wrong, like brave and fear are different. No, brave and fear go hand in hand, and that's what brave is grabbing fear by the hand and going with the fear. It doesn't mean that you're going in fearless or you're going in not scared at all. It means that you're going with the fear.
And looking at your career, and I'm going to show a little bit of footage of just how cool it is. Obviously, a part of the excitement and the thrill of the sport that you're involved in is the danger. It's like you're literally at the edge, and not just at your level. Okay, I mean, because you're world champion, like there have been times where you could say there's literally no one on the planet better than me at this. Like, and that's seriously, that's incredible. But like even just normal people doing it, when they're at the edge of their ability, you know what I mean? It might not be, then it might not be. That's the excitement though. It's like, oh man, this is kind of dangerous. And let's actually, if you'll indulge me, I'm going to play a little bit of, I'm going to play the world champion track here in Cairns. And I imagine you weren't even at full flight. This is 57 seconds.
Well, yeah, that's not even the bike for that track. I was on a smaller bike just for fun, so.
Look at that.
Nice jungle, isn't it?
No way. Like, no way. I could not do that. I just couldn't do that. I mean, you're having fun there, but that's not you at full flight. What got you into this? I understand that you won your first national BMX title when you were 4. But you saw your elder brother going downhill really fast and you weren't allowed to do that for a little while. Is that?
That's funny. I didn't, we were on bikes really young. Like I said about my parents, they were super like, they were never like the parents that kept us from doing things that we liked doing or scary things. I mean, my dad did crazy things when he was younger, like riding his motorbike on the back wheel. And I just remember growing up and looking out the front in our long driveway. We lived at Babinda. We had a huge long driveway down to the farm.
Yeah.
Dad in his shorts and thongs, like riding on the back wheel up and down the driveway, testing out his motorbike. You know what I mean? That was normal to us. Like seeing crazy stuff. Once you see it that much in your life, it's not crazy anymore. It's like normal. So whenever people ask about the fear and being scared, our eyes were never closed to scary, like sporting activities. You know, it was always okay to try new things and to crash trying, to have accidents. You know what I mean? So getting into mountain bikes was kind of the perfect transition from our childhood upbringing. We grew up outside. We did school at home. We always had we were always outside. We were hardly even allowed inside. If we were inside for longer than 30, 40 minutes, our parents were like, outside now. We lived outside. So mountain biking is kind of the perfect transition from growing up the way we did to doing a sport where you're outside. You kind of race on your own. You're in the mountains and you're just like living in the dirt, so it was kind of a pretty easy transition from the way that we got brought up.
Are you kind of racing against yourself, or are you racing against the people around you? Like, what's the...
Yeah, so downhill mountain bikes is like downhill skiing. You're in the gate alone, and it's a time trial. So whoever comes down in the fastest time wins. So you race completely alone. You're in the start gate alone. The last rider has gone a minute before you, and then you start like 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds, 10 seconds, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you race out of the gate completely alone on that track.
Wow. All right. And okay.
Are you okay?
No, I want to get into the emotional side of things, because that thrills me. It's like, walk us through. So you're sitting there, you're listening to that countdown.
Yeah.
Walk us through how that feels. And then when you're going down and you're in the
terrible.
Really?
It's real. It's bad. It's very scary. Like you sit in the gate for 2 minutes. You've seen the person in front of you, race, do their start, and then you sit in the gate with all the timing, professional. You got like the live camera in your face, watching your emotion as you sit in the gate. 1 minute, 30 seconds. You're a little bit stressed. You put your goggles on. You hold on, you spin your wheels back, all these crazy habits. And then you get to 10 seconds, you like stand up, you're in the gear, you set your pedal. And then from 5 seconds to 0, you can go at any time. So just that moment is that's when you get the most kind of worked up. And then as soon as you go out of that start gate and hit the first corner, you're free again. You're on your bike, you're doing what you love. You're flowing, you find the flow, you're doing the first few jumps, dodging trees, rock gardens, and then as you go down, your mind is just like the track is almost like a map in your head. You're like, all right, we've done that. We take this line, we go there, we do this corner, we go high here, low here, jump this, pedal here, brake here, gears here. You know what I mean? And it's just like in your head, you know everything that you have to do, and you're just doing it step by step as you go down at like 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 kilometers an hour. So,
all right. And you've done that. You've got to the bottom. You've pulled up. You've turned around. You've looked at the clock, and you've won. Like, oh my God, I have won the name of title that you've got here: national championships, world championships, highly competitive race, whatever it is. Walk me through that.
Yeah, so it's a super weird sport in that respect, because it's such an intense race. It's a 3 to 5 minute race usually. and it's flat out. You're like from the top of the mountain, get down, you're not conscious, because to do something at that speed, that fast, and with that mindset, it has to be subconscious, or you're going too slow. If you can think about what you're doing on the track, you're already too slow. You're already behind the clock. So everything has to be a subconscious. So when you go through the finish line, it's almost like you're kind of coming back into yourself, and you turn around, you're like, whoa, what just happened? And you kind of trip out for a second, and then people are running up to you, cuddling you, and you're still kind of in that subconscious zone of complete 100% concentration fixed on what you're doing, that you're not even aware of what's around you.
Wow.
It's just you and the track, and you have to be like that to win. It has to be like that.
So like, but okay, I get the concept of doing something so often it's subconscious. Like you've drilled, you're not even kind of thinking about it.
Yeah.
But how much time do you get on these courses?
You get a couple of days practicing, but that's the reason why you have to train like the whole off season. Dad would take me riding almost every single day. I would be riding. I would train on like the local track here. I could do that in my sleep. I knew it so well. I could just roll down the hill. It's like a crazy track. People ride it a couple of times a week, and they're like, holy, that was difficult. I was doing like 30 runs a week of it. In myself, whether I was tired, happy, strong, hungry, I could do it no matter what mood I was in, no matter what conditions it was, no matter what the weather was. I was never scared. I did it so many times. Then you take that to a track overseas. Yeah, it's a little bit different, but you can still get into that mindset of, I trust myself to ride because I trained, I did the work. It's like anything. If you do the work, you know that you can trust yourself to do it.
This is a weird thing to say, but do you feel the bike? Like, does it kind of feel like...
I think so. I mean, like Valentino Rossi said, you have to be one with the bike. If you separate from the bike, it's a fight down the hill. You have to know. And that's like our bike setup is just down to the millimeter. Like, don't cut the bars wider or shorter than the rider asks, or you want one click of rebound or suspension, you want 2 psi of air more in your tires. Things are so little that your bike is perfectly set up to how you want to feel, and then you're one with the bike, I guess, which sounds cliche, but it's completely true.
Wow. Now, at that level, there's only really a small group of people that are kind of like at that world class, and I'd imagine a lot of your, I don't know if colleagues is the right word, but
colleagues, my mates.
Well, I mean, are they, or is it
my other crazy people who race this silly sport? Yeah, I mean, because of the kind of competition that downhill racing is, which is you race the clock. So if I come down in a time, let's say 2:04, and my nearest competitor comes down in 2:03, I can't blame her for beating me by a second, because I was alone on the track and she was alone on the track. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's how close the times get, less than a second. But you can't be cranky about that, because neither of you had anything to do with the other person's performance that day. So everyone from an outside point of view gets along, because we're all fighting the same battle. We're all fighting against the clock.
Wow. So there is that high degree of collegiate, and you kind of mates off the course, or like do you?
Yeah, within reason. I mean, it's still world level competition, and you need to be alone, and you need to be in your own little, pit set up, and you need to do your own routine and stuff. But I mean, we all party together at the end of the day.
Wow. So and do you like
no one hates anyone? No, definitely not in the female class. We're very keep a lot up our sleeves for sure. Because it's the boys are way, I don't want to say nicer, but they're way more open. But girls, it's like one girl will do a jump, one girl won't. So it's like there's a bigger difference in the level of whether the girl's going to do the jump or not. The guys will just ride, I'm going to ride an inch to the right or an inch to the left. So they can share their lines, but if you jump a huge jump and you know all the other girls haven't, you keep that to yourself. That's a big secret.
I don't want to know about that.
Yeah, it's like, scary jump, real scary.
But so is there rivalry? I mean, you can have friendly rivalry, you can have unfriendly rivalry.
Yeah.
Like, did you have any like serious rivalries with people?
Yeah, definitely. But so the year that I won the World Cup overall, 2019, my biggest rival was a girl from the UK. Her name is Rachel Atherton, and she is the winningest downhill rider on the World Cup circuit. And we had an insane rivalry that year. Friendly rivalry, but on race day, big battles. And that, like, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it. It was amazing. And, you know, there was the first World Cup I'd won in, I think, a fair few years, I think since 2012, the year I broke my femur, was the first time I'd ever beaten her, like, fair and square, if you know what I mean. And then our rivalry just kept going from there.
That must have felt good.
Oh, very good. Amazing. Unbelievable. And then so I started leading the World Cup series, and then she goes and busts herself. So she didn't finish the season, but there was a good rivalry at the start. And then, you know, then someone else comes up and they're your rival for the end of the year. So there's always someone, and it's kind of annoying in that regard because it's so unpredictable, the weather, the track, the day, rocks on and off the track. And you know, when it's coming down to less than a second in racing, carrying the overall jersey is extremely mentally challenging.
Yeah, I bet.
So
and look, so with that rivalry, because you really get to know that person, I'd imagine.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I didn't go as far as really looking too much into it because I had a really good team manager, and he would have been the reason why I won the overall. He's definitely one of the reasons why mentally I got through that season. But he would always tell me, you know, it's not about anybody else, it's about you, and all you can do is your best. So don't get carried away in getting too into depth of what they're doing, because no matter what, you can't change it anyway. So you can't become like them as a rider, and you can't, you know, stop them from being that level of rider. So you can only really be the best that you can be and hope that that's good enough at the end of the day or the end of the season.
Did you have times where you'd be looking at that or watching a race and thinking, get out, thinking, I can't do this. I'm never going to beat that person. I'm kidding myself. What am I doing here? Like, did you get moments like that?
No, not really. I mean, after I broke my femur a little bit, but every race just motivated me to be better or faster. I got very annoyed at myself, but never to the point that I would give up, always to the point that I wanted to go home and try harder.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and you've paid a pretty big price physically for it.
Yeah.
What permanent injuries have you got?
So 2019, I'm going to go a little bit backwards so I can go forwards and explain what's going on. But in 2019, I won the overall, and then 2020 was COVID year. So it kind of got a bit unfair for people that weren't from Europe. We went overseas and raced like 4 races in 2 venues in Europe. They called it the World Cup overall. None of us, like Aussies, so half the Aussies couldn't even go. Some of us went and took the risk of going during COVID. And after 2019, I was so amped up and ready to fight and ready to race. And then 2020 was just like, what a big bummer. So at the end of 2020, I actually retired from World Cup level racing to, you know, focus on other races, other fun events. And just because winning the overall was really my main goal, and I achieved that. And then 2020 was going to be like, yeah, this is cool, you know, coming off the overall. And then it just ended up being a pretty weird year that it confirmed in me that it was time to like step back from that level of racing. And it was, one of the reasons was because of the terrible injuries. Like when I broke my femur, when I raced the nationals, that was 6 months later. Well, 3 months after that race, I broke my other collarbone and had to recover from that to start the World Cup season that year. So I came back to racing 3 months after that. And then I broke my left collarbone again, the one that I broke when I broke my femur 3 months later. So within the year of breaking my femur and the next August, I had broken my collarbone 3 times, my femur once, and done all that damage. And I was very mentally run down from that. And you just kind of get tired of the injuries and the sacrificing your body once you come to a certain point. So in 2020, when I retired from World Cup level racing, it was one, because I didn't want to. I'd raced professionally for 10 years, and the high level of stress, it's very, very intense racing, as I explained. And then the injuries that kind of come along with it, no matter what, is pretty brutal on your body.
Okay. And do you still love the sport?
Oh, absolutely. I actually, speaking of injuries, in this year, I snapped my ACL. So I haven't been on the bike for a couple months. So it's, I retired in 2020, and then I went overseas, to commentate and to race a few fun races. And the first race I got to, I was so excited because I hadn't raced all year. It was the first year not racing World Cups. Boom, snapped ACL and had surgery like 4 days later. So I'm still in my recovery phase of an ACL reconstruction. So exactly, it's terrible on the body. It's not good at all. But I love it. That's why I stay involved. And I've moved into the team manager's role now, which is amazing. I still get to travel, and the hard work has paid off in the sense that I can stay in the industry and travel and still be at all the races.
Are you mentoring people as well?
No, not at the moment. I should, for sure, but I wouldn't even know where to start, to be honest. I'm not that kind of person, but if someone asks me for advice, I'll give it, but I'll never go out of my way to force my advice on anybody. No,
but you're doing it now. Like all the people. Serious. I'm not being ironic. I'm not being flippant. This is mentoring.
Thank you.
No, really. Like there are you don't know it, but most like I get at least 1,000 views, actual views for each interview, and the highest one's been over 6,000. So literally,
that's amazing.
At least 1,000. Well, actually, if you give me a moment of pride, considering that it's a hobby podcast with
good on you.
In my study with no background.
I mean, I like the background. It's interesting.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, stick with the mountain bike rising, mate. The lying thing, you're not so good. The lying thing.
Well, that's good. That's probably good.
One of the amazing things is, again, you're kind of among us in the sense that you're living this normal life in Cairns. And so tell us about you. We know a little bit about your family background, but where you're working, what you're doing.
Yeah, so I just got home a few weeks ago, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think. And I live in my own house, so that always needs love and attention and mowing. And before we had this call, I was actually doing a mini demolish in the granny flat to renovate it and make it look nicer and stuff. So I work a lot on my own house, and then just this year I got a job at Blue Care. So now they call me like a personal carer. I'm not trained, so I go to older people's houses that still want to be independent and live independently, and I do things they can't do, like domestically clean for them and drive them to their doctor's appointments. And I love that. It's like the best thing I've ever done. I'm loving that. And aside from that, I'm going into the full team manager's role for next year on the team that I've just raced for the last 10 years. So that's mainly just called administration. It sounds more exciting than it is. It's just a lot of admin and emails. And then I work for Red Bull Media House at every World Cup commentating the women's downhill racing.
When do you sleep?
The end. I actually sleep a lot unless my partner makes the dogs jump on me, but it sounds busier than it is. I think I just, after training for the last 10 years and being so busy with racing, I need something to do. So I need to be busy, and obviously I have to do loads of rehab with my stupid knee, and that's super annoying. But I have a home gym, so I do all my own. I do training at home and all that kind of thing.
I've had a lot of unfit family members and friends. They know who they are. I'm not going to name them and shame. But like one of them was always like, "Oh, how do you, I just got to get psyched." I go, the first step, that's the hardest one. Just you deserve a medal just for getting in the pool, or lying back down, picking up.
No, that's true.
Sometimes just that first step, going from 0 to 1, that's the biggest leap. After that, it's not so hard. And, you do the first one, it's like, you do one, well, I can do 2. And then you get 20, and you go, well, I can do another set. I can.
Yeah. Like they say, when you put your gym clothes on before you go to bed the night before, and just set the alarm, get up, ignore, don't answer any of your own questions, and just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah. And then once you're doing it, everyone knows once you started, it's fine. Like when you're in the moment doing it, you're like, oh, I'm really glad I did this. But for the first few weeks, you have to ignore yourself and just do it first before asking any questions. Ask later, but do it first.
Just do it. Tell us about the team that you were cycling for.
Yeah, so I have been riding for the UR team for 10 years. The first year I raced for them was 2012, so they got a lovely surprise, a broken femur. He didn't fire me, which is cool, and been riding for them ever since. So very, very loyal team, looked after me and my older brother very well. And even when I said that I didn't want to race World Cup level racing anymore, they were super open to change and doing different things. And even this year, when I was supposed to be doing all these film projects and racing fun events and going and busting my knee at the first race, he never says like, go home, like we're done with you. It's not that kind of team. It's like a family team. It's not results orientated, but the results come when you're happy and you have a good team around you, not when someone's pushing you to be like at the top level every race. And I think that was what I needed from a team, and that's kind of what the team gave me. And now I get to be that for someone else by being the team manager. I get to be, the athlete, manage the athletes, make sure they're happy, make sure they're feeling good, because I know exactly how it feels to have a good team manager behind you. And that was the reason I did so well.
Right. And it took you a lot of places. Actually, quickly, we'll talk about your, because you mentioned your elder brother. You come from this talented family. There must be something in the water. Tell us about him.
Well, yeah, he is. I mean, he's the reason I started riding. And then I would say Dad is kind of the reason we both started riding. He's the crazy one in the family. Like I said, when we were kids, he would be riding up on his motorbike, testing out if he changed the oil correctly on the back wheel with thongs on. So I think our dad was just always a bit crazy. And I think he would have always been, we were definitely more, what's the word? It's not calculated, but we were less crazy than our dad. So to our dad, we were never the crazy ones. He's like, oh, I did worse than that, or I did this or that. So, just having that kind of upbringing. So yeah, my brother was, he's a very, very good rider. He was definitely more naturally talented than I was. He could just read the track and know exactly where to go, whereas I kind of bombed down the track with a little bit of no fear, going wherever I wanted to. So I broke a lot more bike parts than he did, but just a very, very naturally talented rider he is, I guess, not was. He's still alive.
Yeah, not in the past. Yeah. Unlike his sister, who had a pretty close call in 2012.
I had a lot more injuries than him. So, yeah, I was a bit more, I'm a bit of a loose cannon, let's say. He is much more calculated.
That is so cool. And look at the background of your, obviously, mountain biking has taken you, downhilling, I should say, has taken you some awesome places. Like, can you tell us about your favorite race?
I think one of my favorite races, which doesn't happen anymore, my favorite venue is Norway. We raced in Norway and the track was just insane. I mean, it was very expensive. We didn't eat out very much there, but the track was just insane and the place was beautiful and, just nothing was out of place in Norway. Everything is just perfect. Like this man was on his roof mowing the grass in summer, and that was definitely the most amazing place I've been. But the best event would have to be, there's a series called Crankworks, and it's kind of like a mountain bike festival. Those are the best events. They're the most fun. You're with your friends. It's not too competitive. You're riding for fun, and there's like loads and loads of events over 7 days. And yeah, they're definitely the funnest. And they're in Canada, Austria, and they have one in New Zealand.
Oh, well,
yeah, I do love Crankworks. Good prize money and such a good time and just the craziest tracks. So they're sick. I like the crazy tracks, the scary ones.
Really quickly, where else have you been? So Norway was kind of incredible, but
yeah. So the general places are Europe, the UK, Canada, America. The more unique ones are racing in Indonesia. I've raced in China before. We went and raced in South America, like Chile. So yeah, those are more of the unique ones. I know my brothers raced in Brazil and Japan, but they were before my time. So lots and lots of places, but the most crazy / interesting / weird place that I had been for racing was definitely China. As you can imagine.
You got to tell us. I lived in China for a year.
Did you? Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it was so trippy. They love it. They love it. They love anything. All these ladies come out with their cute little umbrellas in their high heels and their beautiful clothes to this mountain bike race. And I was like kind of embarrassed that I was underdressed with my mountain bike gear and my helmet on. But yeah, just China in general is just so crazy, such a cool place. Like I really loved it. I've been there twice now and I was fascinated by China, and racing mountain bikes there was very, very trippy. They just love anyone coming to visit, because some of the people that live in China they don't have a lot of money, so people coming from other countries is fascinating to them. You're like a pop star.
Yeah, that's exactly what I found. And there is cycling culture.
Yes, for sure.
Bikes everywhere.
Yes, exactly. E-scooter. I almost got hit a few times by e-scooters because they're allowed to drive in that little footpath bike lane, or you forget to look. Beep, 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 beep. Lucky they tooted because I was just walking out in front of e-scooters, like moped things so much, but they're silent. And then, of course, the lights never work on them, So, yeah, but really, really interested in how much I was fascinated by China. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I still have I've still got a long love affair with Qingdao, which is one of my favorite beers. I love Qingdao beer. I just
that's funny.
Like if you're going to have if you're going to live in a totalitarian dictatorship with pointless rules, let them have the German purity laws. They enforce that.
That's funny.
Yes,
that's so good.
The beer is fantastic.
I guess a message to someone who wanted to start mountain biking, just keep in mind that it's not all gnarly. It's not all crazy. You can start on easy, flat roads. Even at Smithfield, the tracks, there's green trails. So it doesn't have to be straight away just crazy riding. And someone who wants to end up racing, I mean, be resilient, expect, you know, there to be definitely hard times and injuries. It's that kind of sport. It's an extreme sport, but work hard, don't give up. And I mean, that's anything in life. Work hard, don't give up.
Put your mind to it.
Yeah, exactly.